bring yourself online? Do you question the nature of your baseball reality? Welcome to Baseball World. If you build it, they will play. This is a composite of current memes. I don't actually watch Westworld. In fact, I abominate Westworld because the best robot movie of all time has to do with Isaac Asimov's short stories, and that is, of course, I, Robot. Great movie. So Westworld doesn't really inspire me, but I do like the memes. The memes are hilarious. And the man who says that, Ed Wright, I wish I had his voice. It's nice and deep, and he always plays a scientific geek in the movies he plays. I wish I had that voice. I don't. So you have to put up with this. But this is a composite of those current memes on Westworld, Baseball World, and my interest in discrete simulation, Monte Carlo simulations, if you will, baseball, quantum physics, and Lord of the Rings. It was born mostly out of a game played between my two other brothers and my father when he got us on the weekends, and then it would be raining outside, and we would get this game out, draft teams, and play each other in a playoffs and a World Series. It was great fun. Then during the crisis of the baseball stoppages in the early 90s, we were talking about this over lunch with my engineer colleagues, and we decided to resurrect the game. Did that, played it for about three years. I think we played into the fourth year, and then people's jobs changed and moved around, and we could no longer play it at lunch. But it was great fun. And then this current crisis, I hanker for sports, love sports. I'm actually videoing from Kentucky. We've turned March Madness into March Sadness around here. Now, I'm from Kentucky, but I'm a Louisville fan. But what we've done, or what I have done, is update the game, put it on the computer so that you can play the games on a computer. Again, it's a Monte Carlo simulation. It's a discrete simulation. So all you have to do is program it. Kind of sounds like Westworld. A simulation, or iRobot, I should say. But to go with our current theme, you can program it, and it will actually play the games much like if we actually roll the dice ourselves. And this game is going to have 780 of the best major leaguers who've ever played. They had to have played to qualify for the league. They had to have played at least 7 years, and they had to have retired by 2018. I've also included every current Negro Leaguer, the stats we get from them. Some of those stats exist, some of them do not. But they were often compared to current current major leaguers that they played against, or against folks at the same time. So you might read that a certain player had the same hands as Honus Wagner. That would be Willie Wells. And so we've got him in the game. And so his player card looks very similar to an Honus Wagner card, which means he's a very solid player in this game. And then we've also got some of the players of renown from the Japanese leagues. And again, mostly not having the stats, but being able to have them compared to contemporaries in the major leagues. We've got those players in the game. Now you'll notice that there are certain current major league players who are not in the game. Ichiro is not in the game because he played his last game last year. He's not eligible, but he will be in the game. He's just not eligible yet. I then did a random draft to come up with 24 teams, and I actually put together a much better schedule. A schedule that the Major League Baseball ought to adopt, in my opinion, in some form or another, loosely based on Champions League and relegation schedules in European soccer. So let's see how the sausage was made a little bit. So how do you have a player like Harmon Killebrew, who hit 260s and had some home runs? How do you compare him to a player who played in an era when the average in the league was 288? Harmon Killebrew ends up being a fairly decent player in this league because he played in a league where the average might be 235 and he hit 265. And so what we did is we normalized the data, and this is kind of showing it right here. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's how we did it. So you get the actual player, his ratio per plate appearance, then what the league average was. That turns into a year ratio, and then you compile all the yearly ratios with the league ratios, and and then multiply that by what you want the current league to look like. What would the average player do in a current league? You put those together and you develop the cards, which you've already seen some. And so a player who typically hits 305 in his career might in this league end up hitting a little bit better or a little bit worse based on ratio. So every player is compared to his contemporaries each year he played, weighted by the number of plate appearances or batters faced, depending on if you're a pitcher or a batter. And then those are placed on the cards, much like the old Hall of Fame baseball game. A little bit nuanced. Walks are divvied up between the two. Strikeouts are divvied up between the two. But again, it's nuanced and loosely based. We've also got injuries on these cards. Players who don't play every game in the season ought not play every game in this season as well. Players who played well still might get hurt. I mean, Cal Ripken could get injured. Lou Gehrig could get injured, but the likelihood of their injuries is very, very low compared to somebody, I'll pull out a name like Mickey Mantle, who unfortunately got hurt quite a bit. So we've got that built into the game as well. We've changed the way some of the dice rolls mean. We've added some nuances about infields being in with runners on third base. Defense doesn't have quite the great role it had to play in this Sports Illustrated game, although it does have a part to play, but not strictly as automatic outs. It actually has more to do with did you make an error or not on a particular play. Teams that don't have a good defense, they're graded A through F. Teams that don't have a great defense are going to make more errors. They're going to throw the ball around more, and they're going to have more earned runs, at least again statistically. And so we put these teams together, drafted them randomly, made sure that each team had at least 3 catchers. Now I miscalculated. I need one more catcher for the game, but we got room to add them later. And a player at each position because of injuries. And each pitching staff has between 17 and 19 players. Each team are pitchers, and each team has between 17 and 19 players. And we put them together, and this is kind of what it looks like. The benchmark for the league is runs created, not OPS. I like runs created better than OPS, but you get the comparison. The runs created for the benchmark of the league. So if just average players played against average players, the benchmark for the league would be about 5 runs a game for each team. OPS of about 753. That would mean a benchmark for league average of 262 and a benchmark for league slugging of 403. Now what you're going to see in this game is almost every player's hitter is well above .753 OPS, and every pitcher is well below 4.83 on runs allowed, runs created allowed. And you can see that in these teams. So we've only got one team that's below 6. One team below 6 on runs created, and one team above 8, which is the team I think will win this. And that's what the league looks like. Now, the other interesting thing about this is I've got a way for next year. I think we'll do this next year because it doesn't take that much time to play a game. I mean, I've actually had to slow the computer down so that I can follow the games on the computer. But it's pretty interesting to do. So you can play a lot of games that way. I plan on playing one game by actually rolling it per week and televising that to see how things are going, and then presenting the results of all the games later. But let's look at these teams. Well, we've got a chance. The teams, at least, let's preview the 4 teams that I think are going to win this thing. And then we'll come back and talk about how the season is going to play out. So let's break down the riders from the North Division of Middle Earth. Strong starting pitching staff, anchored by Cy Young. Victor Sturfin, who actually played in the Japanese leagues in the 40s and 50s, won the MVP there. A very, very strong relief staff as well, and a complement of other players for injuries that are also fairly decent. But the lineup is a killer. you've got Hank Aaron, Josh Gibson, and Barry Bonds all on this team, plus a number of other obviously good players. So this is the team that I picked to win the North Division of Middle-earth. All right, the next favorite are the Owls from Middle-earth South. Starting pitching is good. It's not great, but it's good, and probably the fifth starter will be a starter by committee. But the relief staff is outstanding, obviously anchored by Mariano Rivera, who has one of the best pitcher cards in the whole game. And then it comes to Murderer's Row. All 5 of these players might be in the lineup at the same time. McCovey might sit out against some lefties, but you're looking at a lineup that's going to score some runs, anchored by, obviously, Jimmy Fox. And then you've got Yogi Berra on the team. Now, I don't want to get into any jazzy stuff, but Yogi Berra won a lot of pennants. He's the manager, and so while it might be a tough road between the Owls and the Towers, I believe the Owls will win this division. Okay, moving over to the Physics League in the Quantum Division. I'm choosing the Zeds to win this, managed by Luke Appling. Again, the starting pitching is solid. Not great, but solid. The relief is solid. Again, not great. Actually, all these players are great, but not the best in the league. Let's put it that way. And again, they don't have a lot of big names if you're not familiar with baseball. But obviously, these 3 guys, if you look at their OPS, is pretty doggone solid, and they will score some runs for this team. But where the strength of this team is, I think, is going to be the defense. Look at they are very, very solid up the middle with Joe Morgan and Ozzie Smith. And in this game, there's going to be a lot of double plays, and so you need solid infielders to carry you through. So I'm picking the Zeds out of the Quantum Division in the Physics League. And finally, in the Cosmic Division of the Physics League, I'm picking the Strings. I think they're the overall favorite to win this thing. They don't have the best starting pitching. It's solid, and they don't really have the best relievers as well. So I think teams will score on them. I just think they will outscore everyone else, led by, obviously, Teddy Ballgame. They've also got Jackie Robinson, so very solid in the infield. And then this Murderer's Row, you may not have heard of Katsuya Nomura, but one of the all-time great catchers in Japanese baseball, compared to a Josh Gibson-like player. So we gave him a card like that. And then Rudy York, which may not be a famous player, but played in a dead ball era, and so his stats become very, very good in this league, especially against left-handed pitching. This team can do a lot of platooning and will be able to put runs on the board. So this is the team that I pick to win it all, the Strings from the Cosmic Division in the Physics League. Okay, so those 4 teams will be competing at least to play in the Champions Division. Again, the top 2 teams of each division will play in the Champions Division. those teams will then play each other, if they're in their new division of the champions, 8 times, and the team in the other division in the Champions League 4 times, for a total of 48 games. Teams in the relegation league will play each other 16 times. Now, they haven't played each other during the season. They're going to play each other 6 times. And so that's going to be a total of 48 games. 3 times for each team in the other division, for a total of 48 games. And then the team that wins the relegation part will be able to pluck players that are not protected from the Champions Division. Now, in the Champions Division, one thing I like teams that win something to get something. So they will actually play, the winners of each division will actually have 28 home games and 20 away. And the wild card team, so to speak, will only play 20 home games and 28 away games. The 2 winners of the 2 divisions in the Champions League will then play a best of series for the title. Now again, I'm going to play these out. It doesn't take any time whatsoever. I just have to make lineups for each game every day. I'll play those games in approximately 30 minutes, and then I'll roll one per week and maybe televise so you can get to see more. And I'm going to publish the stats one way or the other. They'll either be on Facebook or they'll be on a website. They may be on both, but we'll get that going. So again, I want to say welcome to baseball world. If you build it, they will play. And we're going to play. If you like this channel, please hit the like button and the subscribe button, and then stay tuned for more content as we play this game where we try to simulate some of the best players against each other throughout the history of baseball.